Hello everyone, good afternoon. It's Monday, November 17th. Welcome to our new Elliott Wave webinar.
Good afternoon.
Let me know if you can hear me. Can you see the screen? Hello bro, I can see that Ashraf is here. NS is here, Tarek is here, so we have people joining in. So looks like okay, I don't know how to read this. Okay, so looks like we are good to go. Before we begin, just let me remind you, as I said, noted already last week, we have a sponsor for our webinars. So we are cooperating with Eightcap. So if you want to support us, if you want to join our community, if you are trading stocks, cryptos, indices, commodities, FX, make sure to check our sponsorship here at WaveTraders.com sponsorship. So you can either claim for 30% deposit bonus or even get a free TradingView access. Okay, depends on the conditions here. So I welcome you to check this and support us so that we can provide more of these free webinars in the future. Okay, so basically, as you know, we have seen some risk off last week. We have seen even Bitcoin moving below 100,000 level. It's not really that surprised, but some altcoins are still somehow doing and looking quite solid because the Bitcoin dominance obviously is weakening here. So I want to start with cryptocurrencies today. I have recorded one video, special edition for our members on, I think it was on Thursday, Friday. So if you're our member and didn't check that video, then make sure to do it. It's much more detailed analysis like it will be presented here in this free webinar. So basically here I'm looking at Bitcoin long-term holders, okay, and values over 1 indicates that more long-term investors are selling at a profit. Okay, values around or below 1, it means that more long-term investors are at loss. And you can see here where is the value 1. Still haven't been actually reached by the recent data here. But if you look here back in the past previous examples, whenever there were a lot of long-term holders that were in loss, of course, we were basically moving closer to potential support, and we are, despite this recent decline, we are still not there at that level. So I'm afraid that this could be even more weakness going into the start of this week, but I would not be surprised that if we see some spike to the downside, that cryptos could possibly be looking for some stabilization. But based on this data, the ideal conditions are still not here. Also, if you look at the Bitcoin net unrealized profits, of course, if the Bitcoin price is moving to the downside, it means that a lot of profits are gone. Okay, and if this data will show us that there are more and more profits that are out from the market because the prices keep pressing them to the downside, it means that again we could be moving into some extremes for potential support or rebound on the market, because as you know, when the market will experience a lot of losses, that's when we could be at the potential stabilization. So it looks like that at the moment, based on the latest drop here, there's still a lot of big players and holders that market is trying to press them out, and that's why we are seeing this kind of a here move to the downside here. And you can still you can interestingly see that despite Bitcoin trading at new highs, all-time highs here back in July during summer, actually there were not a lot of long-term these holders that were in profit. There were a lot of more profits here back in 2024, and here was what was that was at the end of 2024. So looks like that we are now possibly moving into some kind of extremes, but Bitcoin itself will not just easily see a rebound, right? We obviously want that stock market will stabilize. You need more of dollar weakness. You need that Fed will actually be certain that they will cut rates, and that's what could pressure dollar to the downside and could make and turn this cycle around. But as you know, Fed Powell there were a lot of uncertainty if they would really cut rates in December, and that's what is pressing or is putting a pressure on the price, and that's why we are seeing this kind of a pullback. Overall, when looking at the Bitcoin and looking maybe at the higher time frame charts, as I've been saying this already months back, that we are most likely at the end of this current bull cycle, and it doesn't really matter if you were long for the last 2 years or 3 years. It doesn't really, and you're looking for exits. I mean, it doesn't really matter if we have already seen the final top or we will see another push to the upside, because it's whenever you are holding for a longer, a bit longer period, which by the way 3 years is not really that long period, you certainly want to get out of the market at the end of the cycles at the highs, and you will not be able to catch the final high. So you really need to have a structured plan how you will approach this kind of a market reactions. But keep in mind that there will be again some very deep retracements, and if some already missed maybe some exits, or maybe they don't want to exit the market at all, if they want to hold for a longer period, that's totally fine. But keep in mind that market always moves in cycles, and whenever next big cycle will show up again, maybe we'll have to wait on a new correction that will last for around a year, 2 years, like we have seen in the previous examples. So I'm just afraid that maybe we are the beginning of this correction. Doesn't necessarily mean that we will see a deep price in a correction. It could be just a sideways consolidation. So it doesn't really mean that you will see a big drop. The timing is very, very important factor whenever we are dealing with the cycles. Obviously, maybe not so important the price, because we can easily just move sideways here and still hold, let's say, above 70,000, and still it would be not be a 90-80% drop on Bitcoin, but still later on, if the price would move more to the right rather than to the down, still we could then see a next phase to the upside. So the correction, I'm afraid it's already here, and in fact, if you look here on the daily time frame, we can basically count 5 waves to the downside. I know that we have an overlaps here, but it could be possibly even a leading diagonal. I realized that we tested the first support around 98,000, 100,000. We rallied only in 3 waves and fell back to new lows, and now we are testing these supports around 92, 90,000. So I think that for now, for this week, this level should be very important. Why? Because we also have nvidia earnings, okay, this week. As you know, market is stepped a bit on a sideline. Earnings were pretty good from some big tech companies, so everyone is now having eyes on nvidia. As you know, nvidia must not disappoint. If nvidia disappoints, if those extreme valuations are just too extreme and market will have to reprice, and nvidia will show any kind of a weakness, this will have very bad impact also on other big stock names, sectors, economy, and so forth. So nvidia will be very, very important, and I think that what's interesting, or what we should maybe consider, is that even if stocks would see move to the downside, okay, from here, let's say that we will see just another 5-10% drop on S&P 500, it doesn't necessarily mean this will happen. This will press the price on Bitcoin with the same magnitude to the downside. Let's not forget what happened back in April. Let me just try to new pane. Let's just not forget what happened here back in April. So back here, it was actually Bitcoin, which was the first that turned lower here. And then, as you know, when we have seen this massive sell-off due to tariffs that were announced by Trump back at the end of March, at the beginning of April, S&P 500 made a very sharp move to the downside. But Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies in general, didn't see such a strong push lower. So now maybe we have a very similar situation. If stocks will still maybe make some deeper retracement and then stabilize later on, it doesn't necessarily mean we will see the same sharp drop on the Bitcoin. Of course, based on normal correlations, this is what I would expect. But if this would not happen, I would not be surprised based on the past cycles, because as I already showed you earlier, a lot of holders, long-term holders, are already in a loss. Okay, so it looks like that a lot of those liquidations already occurred, meaning that even if you get a fear on stocks, it doesn't necessarily mean that this fear will be visible with the same degree on the cryptocurrencies. Okay, now when it comes also to some of the alternate wave counts, okay, the most bearish wave count you can get is that what if that's not the leading diagonal? What if you have 1-2-1-2 bearish scenario that will take the price much lower? So that would be probably something like that then. But still, I mean, very big support levels should be around 70,000, as I already showed you that on an earlier very big chart. I'm not saying that we are going straight push to the downside, but if Nvidia earnings will disappoint, you never know what could happen here. But markets somehow always, even in downtrend, they will always see a rebound. So I would not be surprised to see some rebound. There could be a lot of traders that on this rebound they will say, okay, we are going back to new highs. There will be a new inflows here, and higher we go, well, maybe their market will be even more optimistic, even more bullish, and that's why later on I would anticipate wave C to the downside, and that would be the perfect ABC structure for a rebound later on when no one would expect or anticipate. Also, let me just check my my notes here. Also, if we look at here on a daily chart and looking at simple moving averages, that's quite concerning here. What I see, I mean, here, as you can see, if that was an uptrend, the most important should be obviously with this, I believe it's the 200, yes, it's the 200-day moving averages, and you can see that we stabilized and moved quite nice push to the upside even after some push lower here on these dips. But if you look at the current price action, well, we are now trading far away from that 200 moving averages, and we broke well below all of the moving averages, and this is quite concerning because normally this means that we are in a higher degree correction. But in ideal conditions, of course, even these moving averages could be retested on some kind of a bounce when the market will stabilize, and then you will see a deeper free wave retracement after a bounce. So even this basic technical perspective is not looking that good for Bitcoin itself. But of course, as I said, even if we get a rally, still we could see some solid recovery, but not necessarily means that we will continue back to new highs here. But some of the alts, as I said, maybe some of the alts are doing much better. If Bitcoin dominance will keep moving to the downside, Bitcoin will make a deeper pullback. It doesn't necessarily mean that alts will also drop. A lot of alts already have seen massive 70% of retracement or even more. So maybe alt season will be called alt season because of alts will not fall that much compared to Bitcoin. Okay, but you obviously it would be much easier to be anticipating or discovering some opportunities on crypto, on alts, if we will see stabilization in Bitcoin itself. So if I would have to choose or look for any kind of potential opportunities or the price action, what I would have an eye was probably on the Ethereum. Okay, the Ethereum has made a so far very nice pullback here, almost 40%. Maybe we can get even closer to 45 or 50%, but keep in mind that here we have the 61.8% fib level of that move up from April lows of this year. So far, this is a very nice pullback. But if you are looking for potential trade setups that will maybe last from your entry from 3 days to maybe to let's say 2 weeks, or maybe even 2 months, if suddenly maybe some intraday trade setups will unfold in the midterm opportunity there, then what you want to see obviously is some very nice rebound. Just saying that that's a support is not enough. Okay, of course we already seeing some overlapping price action, which is quite nice, but you still want to see a strong, powerful reversal. Okay, so in other words, what you want to see is an impulsive price action out of this current downward channel, and ideally if you will see an overlap with 3,400, that could make a very nice bullish case, or at least temporary bottom. So in such case, even myself, I would be maybe seeking for some opportunities on retracement. So if we would see this kind of a rebound, because I want to see this rebound to make sure that we have then a low in place. Okay, because for now with lower lows, lower swing highs, that's still technically a downtrend, but this dynamic could change if we break out of this downward channel with impulsive price action. Okay, also what could possibly stabilize, at least for the near term, as I said, if we are really going to see maybe here some supports for wave A. Let me draw these trend lines back here. So if we really get some kind of a support and stabilization, if nvidia will do well, then what you want to see in general is obviously that you are back in the risk on mode. So the S&P 500 itself is still sitting on this trend line support potential triangle, as I discussed last week. So if we get a bounce here in this wave 5, then this could maybe cause some rebound on the Bitcoin itself as well. But if this trend line support here around 6,640 is broken, then I'm afraid that we are in a higher degree wave 4, and we will have to wait on a deeper price action, deeper very strong support levels. But as I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin itself will also see a very strong push to the outside, because we have already seen some losses happening in the last few weeks, right, on the Bitcoin. So that means that maybe the Bitcoin will not see that strong push lower. But if we get a drop, what I would focus on is also this price level here from Friday, October 10. That's exactly when cryptocurrencies sold off. What happened back then? I think Trump once again treated with tariffs on China Friday during the US hours, late US trading session. So that's when we have seen a strong push to the downside. Then market, when the dust settled, we have seen that basically stocks have seen a rebound and open higher. So on futures, I still see down here as an open gap. So if we see a break out of this downward channel, then this could be a very nice technical support. Okay, so I really will pay attention to these levels and what will happen down here. You will get a rebound, and I think that when everyone will start turning bearish, we will be ready maybe for something opposite. Also, when it comes to cryptocurrencies itself, as I said, nvidia is important. It's important for the whole for the whole stock market, for the whole economy. So nvidia earnings will be released on Wednesday 19th after the close. So until then, as you know, markets could just basically stay sideways, or maybe even could see move to the downside. Some big players are already exiting nvidia positions because they just realized that maybe this very big bull run is coming to an end. It doesn't necessarily mean that market has to collapse. Okay, for each individual, it's important that you just book profits whenever you are satisfied. It doesn't mean you have to run and you will run the whole bull run. You just have to be aware of a risk and be aware of a pullback or a drop in prices, stock prices, rather than be surprised. So it's not really surprising to me that we are seeing this kind of stories coming out, that everyone is saying, not everyone, but maybe some important people, some big institutions are worrying that maybe we will see a big retracement. And as I said, nvidia so far is still maybe in a wave 4, but to be completely honest with you, I really do not like this price action a lot, because I mean this could easily be end of an impulse of a wave 5 up there. okay? But even if we are in a wave 4 here, well, there's still, and you will see only an ABC pullback, or maybe we are in a higher degree correction, and that will take the price against the previous 5-wave rise. Well, you still should see then maybe a retest of 165, 170 dollars here, okay? So that should be the very big support. And I think as long as we are above that support, there is still basically a chance that we will remain in this bull run. But I would not be surprised if we see prices maybe slightly moving to the downside. But for the next big move, I just really want to see how the price will respond to earnings. It would be, to me, it would be much easier to be bullish if, for example, we would see a gap to the downside, not big misses on earnings. We see some fear spreading out, but then in the next few days, market will start stabilizing at the support levels. You will have an open gap higher, which, as you know, usually will get filled on a next rebound. That would be the ideal scenario. Also, as I said earlier, stocks are important, and if we look at MicroStrategy, not sure if I talked about the MicroStrategy already last time. This one, as you know, is also in a big pullback here. Obviously, if cryptocurrencies are moving lower, here I'm looking at the log scale. MicroStrategy is also in a pullback, of course, but we are possibly moving into some supports here, but because that's a log scale, there is always still a big risk for another 20% of a pullback or so. So what is the most important for me? The price action or the wave structure itself. And if you look here on the daily chart, well, if we are in a wave C, we are not seeing a completed 5 waves down yet. So I'm afraid that there is room for more weakness, maybe even closer to $130, $150 down here. But before we may say that wave C will come to an end, obviously you need 5 waves down. So for the time being, that's still a downtrend that is not finished yet. And even if you look maybe at Coinbase here, this one has recently came out of this wave B consolidation, but I'm watching this gap from earnings. That was the latest miss of earnings, goes back to May of this year when reports came out. So that's a pretty important big gap, and especially if we consider that wave C could equal to wave A in that area, well, then still looks like that we have some room for more weakness. And as you know, this anything what is linked to cryptocurrencies, if Bitcoin will experience more losses, which is already happening, maybe this at some point with the delay will also be visible on this on this important stock charts when it comes to linked to the cryptocurrencies. So the next thing, what's important overall, is obviously the US dollar. As you know, if we are in a risk on mode, what we want to see is that US dollar will continue to the downside. And here we tested this upper side of this summer range. You can basically, if you just ignore the wave counts here, you can basically see that, and just connect the line here. Okay, you can basically see some very important resistance. Okay, so that was the support, broke below it, some volatility occurred around that level. Then after a sharp break lower a few months back, we retested it once, now twice. So technically still a downtrend. Of course, there is sometimes not easy to predict our reversals, because at some point this even resistance will be broken even if you are in a downtrend. But for now, if we just respect the levels, 100.25 is still, my opinion, very important level. So as long as we are below that, there is a risk that we will see a pullback, or maybe even a break to a new low for a wave 5. But keep in mind that we have here some unfilled gap around 97.70. So this makes me think that we will see some more weakness even with this alternate wave count, which shows that maybe what if we bottomed here. But even this wave count itself shows the possibility of lower pullback first and the rebound later on. But I think that we will have a lot more clue what is going on the dollar and with treasuries, or if you want US yields, when we'll have a bit more data, when we'll have new latest jobs reports from the US, so that when we may see what Fed, or at least speculate what Fed will do next. Now looking at the euro dollar is also going nowhere. I'm playing with an idea that maybe we could see another push to the upside if we are in a triangle, but really not the wave structure that could offer any kind of opportunities, at least not if you're looking for some cycle opportunities here. But I was looking for a reversal and some kind of a recovery, and called it from already 1-2 weeks back. Because what we saw here is that move came out of a triangle on a smaller time frame chart. So on the intraday updates, we also obviously covering those in our services. So we were looking for a reversal. We now broke out of this downward channel. Maybe we are in, we'll consolidate further to the upside for a wave D, but not really. I mean, I'm not really seeing any kind of interesting price actions here. It would be much easier maybe to call more gains once I will be able to count all of the needed ABCD lags, because now that's just still one possible idea that I'm tracking, but we're just in the middle of this pattern, so not worth to take a risk here. Even cable here, it has seen a very nice push to the downside. Now it's trying to recover back above the previous 2025 lows here from July, but again, not really making a break to the upside yet. We are just moving very slow here, but if we can see something like that, we can see push to the upside, and then you see 1, 2, 3 days of a stable price action beyond the channel resistance and above 1.3250 level, then this could make quite an attractive case for more upside later on. So you don't want to see just one day event here, push to the upside, then immediately the next day we fall back into this downward channel. Then obviously we will know that that was just some kind of a stop hunt. So you want to see for a breakout, confirmed breakout, you want to see day or 2 days, 3 days ideally, that price will be trading above the potential resistance, or this 1.3250 bullish level as I marked it here, because easily this can be even a wave 4 if we just will keep chopping around here. Now also let's take a look at dollar yen. By the way guys, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, press a like so that we will be listed higher on YouTube, and as I said, if you are interested in more for our analysis, make sure to visit us at WaveTraders.com. Also check for our sponsorship with Eightcap. Now dollar yen keeps moving to the upside, but when is the next if someone knows when is the next BOJ rate decision? You know, they were on hold, but there are some speculation that they could even hike. Of course, they are watching Japanese yen that it's weakening, and as you know, this has it's very important for in their inflation as well. So maybe they will act, maybe they will hike, maybe the rhetoric will change that will try to limit the upside here. That's one thing. The next thing is that if the dollar would really come to the downside, as I'm expecting, then maybe we will see also this reversal happening from that kind of a weak dollar story, or maybe Japanese yen could see more upside versus dollar if stocks will collapse. So there are a lot of important intermarket analysis that could potentially cause this reversal. But then if you look at this price action from an Elliott Wave perspective, well, I see possibly here still an ending diagonal. I know that price keeps pushing to the upside, but I still see very slow price move. I cannot see any kind of an impulsive, very strong activity that would convince me that we are going to see any kind of a very strong push to the upside here. So what I'm looking at is that we could be maybe in a wave 5 here, the final sequence of this ending diagonal, and each leg in an ending diagonal should be made or structured by 3 waves. And what's the most important when it comes to an ending diagonal is that wave 3 obviously is not the shortest. So you can take the distance of a wave 3 and then put it here from the bottom of a wave 4. So invalidation level, as you can see, is far away, is at 158. In some cases you will see that there will be a throw over formation for a wave 5, but ideal resistance, technical levels, and based from a timing perspective as well, maybe this week we get some limited upside around 155.50 to 156. So that could be the key resistance area, especially since I also explore some wave structure on smaller time frames, and I came out with an idea that this could be a quite important level up here. So maybe if now price at this first half of the week we will see market pushing to the upside, then as you know, market will never, from day one in a week, it will never move straight to the upside. Not never, but usually it won't till Friday. You won't see the straight push to the upside. Even if that would be the low of the week on Monday and the high of the week on Friday, you still could see something like this. So I'm expecting some kind of a pullback or reversal here. It's not only on the weekly period. This kind of a price action will also occur on a daily period. Okay, you will not see, even if the market is through the whole day, you see push to the upside. In the intraday sequence, you will see something like this, and the market then later on still could continue to the upside. So I'm still expecting that there will be some reversals going on, and as I said, ideally from around 156. But if we start seeing levels printed at above 157, 158 by the end of the week, then of course I will admit I'm wrong and I will have to adjust the wave structures. But when it comes again to potential trade setups, some will open the positions here, put the stops above the invalidation level. Some will rather wait on a bearish impulsive reaction first and then hunt a pullback with the stops above the highs. Okay, so it really depends what kind of a trader or what kind of approach you have here. Now let's take a look also on dollar CAD, and let's take a look on our here. We are 30 minutes here. Okay, so still have some time. So dollar CAD, is making some very nice recovery, and I assume that that was an impulsive decline, because you can clearly see that this was somehow, okay, sharp drop, while here we have some overlaps. Okay, maybe some would argue that that's maybe a leading diagonal and we will see more upside, but even leading diagonal will see a retracement before the market will push to the upside. So I'm thinking that that was a pretty nice and strong, interesting resistance area. Even if you look back here, we had this swing support and new resistance. So these levels around 1.4150 I also highlighted with our updates here. And so far what is happening, well, we can see some very nice reversal to the downside, and looks like we have some impulsive price action going on. So I would not be surprised to see more weakness. Ideally we can retest in the next few weeks maybe these levels down here. Also Bank of Canada noted that maybe they are done with cutting rates, and we'll see how this will obviously these things will also unfold going forward. Maybe the dollar CAD itself will be more driven, who knows, by crude oil, which is on the rise, as I will look in a second, or maybe with the potential weakness from the dollar. Now looking at the crude oil, since I mentioned, well, last week, as you know, I've been talking, not only last week but for the last few weeks, that that's a very nice impulse here, since they took news imposed new sanctions on Russia, and then we have seen a pullback. Firstly, I thought that that was the end of a corrective wave, but then we have seen another push to the downside and a retest of the 61.8%. What's the most important so far is that market stabilized and even rebounded going into the end of this week. So still, if you ask me, that looks like an impulse, that looks like a counter trend price action. So at least one push to the upside, in my opinion, is probable, while the market is trading above $56 per barrel. Okay, and now let's take a look on gold. Okay, so because we are making this analysis on gold and silver in each session, please make sure to press a like here, and I will also make sure to provide more of those content in the future. So looking at gold, what happened? What happened there, as you know, on metals? Well, we have seen firstly a move to the upside on this speculation that because of actually US government shutdown, then shutdown ended, and we have seen a reversal to the downside on metals. And technically, what's the most important here is that on gold itself is that we basically make an overlap with this wave B with it at 4042, because if I think that that's the beginning of a new impulse, and I thought that maybe we are in a wave 4, then wave 4 should not fall into the territory of a wave A. Okay, so basically I came out with an idea that this is still ongoing consolidation, and it could be a triangle, could be even a flat, but in a flat you will ideally see that wave B will move closer to the beginning of a wave A, which was not really the case here. So I would prefer to look for a triangle, or maybe even lower WXY formation. So the first support, if we really are going to see a triangle, is still maybe below 4,000. As you know, 4,000 a very big pivot level. You could see at very big levels of a lot of volatility will be going on, so you can see some push to the downside, and then the market will recover back above that level. So 4,000 is the first level to watch, but I would not be surprised to see a drop towards 3,960. Below that, very big levels could be around 3,700. Okay, also maybe it's not bad idea, especially because I know that a lot of traders, investors want to look for gold as from a longer term perspective, as for opportunities. And maybe it's not bad idea to look at volatility index from gold. Okay, and you can see that each time when there was massive volatility on gold going on, well, it was not the best place to look for potential longs. Okay, usually this was the evidence that market is moving into some kind of extremes and that we could possibly slow down. So there could be much better and interesting opportunity when volatility is low and you have the price consolidating or trading at the supports rather than at some extreme levels and potential resistance here. So we recently have seen, as you know, volatility first here was spike in April, then market moved into this consolidation. And then when volatility slowed down, again, we have seen another increase in volatility with this breakout. And now, again, we have seen even further more volatile price move compared to the previous cycle here, prior April. So again, it looks like that volatility could now decrease, especially if this consolidation will take longer pause here. So cyclical opportunities are definitely not here. Also, as I said and discussed already last time, if cuts are on pause, in fact, if Fed is really unsure what could do next, I think that there are for cuts like only 56% chance or so. So if we are going closer to 50 and maybe they will really stay in pause for longer, it means that even gold could stay in pause for longer. It would be obviously much easier for metal to continue to the upside when Fed is really convinced they will be cutting further, because then you will see interest rates moving to the downside, dollar would drop, and as a result gold could continue towards more gains. And now let's take a look also on silver. So silver, as you know, made something unexpected last week. As you know, I have been calling and saying that we are most likely stepping into the corrective territory because the market made these 5 waves down from the highs, and then we have seen a very deep recovery, but still looks like it can be a free wave movement. Didn't really see an overlap yet with 49.42 to make sure that that was a free wave rise, but looks like that we certainly have seen a limited upside at the upper side of this range. So my preferred idea is still that we are in the middle of consolidation. Even if we have seen such a deep pullback, keep in mind that pullbacks, even if you have previously 5 waves down, even wave 2 can retrace for 100% of a wave 1, but not more than 100% of a wave 1. And if someone is saying that there were a lot of pessimism down there, well, then you can be really convinced that with this kind of a trend, there's a lot of more optimism up here, right? Because you still have a higher degree uptrend. So I'm not really surprised that market is now consolidating further. It doesn't mean that we necessarily have to see more downside here, but could easily just be more consolidation moving forward, so that there will be more traders, speculators that will be starting to liquidate their longs. Okay, that's the ideal scenario, because if someone who didn't bought here, okay, they waited on a pullback, they got this retracement, market does this, and now when it comes to the downside, what all of those who bought down here will look? Well, they will probably be out or at break even, or maybe at a stop loss here at a new swing low. And that's what we want to see, that market will become even more bearish down here for potential stabilization, later on. And if you're wondering just what the sentiment is, the whole sentiment, well, then just maybe if we will just look at this post on this chart that I also posted on X, you will basically, if you will scroll down all of those commentary, you will basically see where the sentiment was when I was worrying that potential reversal could still occur, and that better levels, buying levels, are yet to come. It doesn't mean that I have to be right, it's just the perspective, where and how you want to be involved in the market. Okay, so even if sometimes I'm wrong, and I admit that I'm wrong a lot of times, it doesn't mean that I have to ride each leg to the upside, no matter how far and how high market goes. If I spot this kind of a wave structure here, I will always label this as a 5-wave drop from the highs. If I will label this any different, okay, then and I will always try to force to label this as maybe as a flat, which certainly it's possible but not probable, or WXY. Well, if I label this kind of a wave structure corrective, then I will be wrong most likely 9 out of 10 times. And that's the most important when it comes to Elliott waves. We focus on probabilities, not possibilities. Possible is everything, and even if it's possible that was the low of a completed correction, well, it's fine. I just don't want to buy this market because the price action itself doesn't fit my wave structure, my strategy. Okay, traders, hope you enjoyed this presentation. Once again, don't forget to press a like, and make sure to visit us at WaveTraders.com. Look at our offerings, look at our plans. Also, Black Friday is coming. We will most likely came out with some offers there, so make sure to follow us on social media as well, and we will keep you updated, and definitely will bring you a new webinar next week. Traders, good luck. Bye.